What's up?
What's up?
Big Bob.
And
And we have a guest today. Please introduce.
We have a wonderful guest. I've been fortunate for the last 7 years to work with the Midwest Section PGA. And because of that, I met one of its many legends, but one of my favorite, Jeff Burey, who's a legendary golfer who has written a book that he released last year called Blessed: Stories in the Life of a Golf Professional. Boy, are these stories amazing. I mean, his golf introduction to the game goes years back, but one of my favorite stories, because I think it's fun the way he surprised his mom with it. Tell about that story where you were on a golf course and someone asked you to tag along and play with them and you didn't even know who it was.
Well, and thank you for the nice introduction. When I was young and in my prime as a kid, I was in Connecticut. I was a caddy, and they had a little policy at the country club where I caddied, where if the course was closed for maintenance, there was a sister club in the next town over, Westport, Connecticut, that had a 9-hole club that caddies could play on Monday, the day the club was closed to members. And days Birchwood was closed, their caddies could come over and play our club. So one Monday, it was in the autumn. I'll never forget this day. I got home from school just like I would every day.
How old would you be? I
was probably 13 years old.
That's the prime age for caddies.
Yeah, and it was caddying, a spectacular experience. But anyhow, my passion for my whole life has been golf, and as a young kid, I all I wanted to do was play. There was nothing more important than playing golf. So I decided that Monday that I would sling my clubs over my shoulder, get on my bike, and ride 1.5 miles over to the Westport Club, because our club was closed, and play Birchwood. And I got there, and there was a mist, and it was an autumn day in Connecticut, kind of cool. And I was the only one there, I thought. And so I hit a few putts on the putting green and went over to the first tee to play, carrying my bag. And seemed like out of nowhere, a fellow appeared, and he said, "Hey, you all alone playing golf?" And I said, "Yes, I don't have anybody." He said, "Do you mind if I join you?" And I said, "Certainly, come on." And so he introduced himself, his first name, and we played 9 holes, and we had a fun time. And after we finished, it was nearly dark. I got on my bike, slung the clubs over my shoulder again, drove back home, and as usual, when I get home late, my mom would have dinner in the oven, and they had already eaten. My family had already eaten, so she got my dinner out, and I sat down, and she sat down with me, and she said, "How'd you play?" And I said, "Mom, I played pretty well today. I had 38, shot 38 for 9 holes. I said, "Not bad, pretty good." She said, "Did you play with anybody?" I said, "Yeah, I played with the nicest guy." And she said, "What was he like?" I said, "Well, he was really, really nice, polite. Did he play very well?" I said, "No, not very well. I think he shot about 50, I think, and but he was just real fun to play with." He said, "What'd you notice about him?" I said, "Mom, he had the bluest eyes of anybody I've ever seen in my life. His eyes were absolutely
skinny little kid.
Wait for it. Are you ready
skinny
for
little
it?
kid.
Yeah. So my mom said, "What was his name?" And I said, "Well,
Was it?"
He said, "What was his name?" And I said, "Well, I don't know his last name, but I know his first name was Paul."
Oh.
And was Paul.
I was thinking blue eyes.
And so I said, "Yeah, it was really, really something." And he said, "Well, can't you remember his last name?" And I said, "No, but I do have the scorecard." So I went out into the back hall, and I had my golf clubs there, and I unzipped my pocket and got the scorecard out and handed it to my mom. And she said, "You played golf with Paul Newman."
Paul Newman.
And I said, "Paul Newman? Who's Paul Newman?" I didn't really know Paul Newman at the time, but he was the heartthrob then, and my mom almost fainted. And
there's a famous story about Paul Newman. He was asked by a reporter, "Mr. Newman, you have a reputation of being faithful to your wife, and all these women are always throwing themselves at you. Why are you? Why?" He goes, "Why go out for hamburger when you got steak at home?"
No doubt about it. Joanne Woodward was a beautiful woman, and is a beautiful woman.
I used to say to my ex-wife, "Why go out for hamburger when you got hamburger at home?"
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Exactly.
So is that the one and only time you encountered him, or did you see him before?
We would they're out shopping. He blended right into the community. I mean, it was like he and Joanne Woodward were just Westport residence, and he had his fancy cars,
I
and
thought it was
he raced
Greenwich.
cars, and
I thought he lived in Greenwich.
he lived in Westport,
Okay.
and which is east of where I grew up in Norwalk. Greenwich is to the west or southwest, and Interstate 95 corridor. But that was a fabulous day, and as a caddy, you learn so much about people and life, and I learned to dream as a caddy. I mean, my dad was a blue collar guy, factory worker, worked at night and on the assembly line, and I caddied for people of all walks of life, and it was amazing because you just begin to dream. You said, "Hey, he's a doctor. Look at this guy is a wonderful, wonderful businessman," or "Look, this is a teacher at my high school," which leads me to a fun story. It's not in the book about a high school caddy, another caddy story, but. I caddied one evening for a fellow named John Ben, and he was the English teacher in Norwalk High School. And I remember I was in the 9th grade, and we had junior highs. We didn't have, 9th grade was a separate school. So I'm out one evening and I'm caddying for John Ben, and he was a terrible golfer. I guess you'd use the word hacker. He was a hacker. And he got the shanks, and the shanks are a dirty word. The ball goes straight to the right for a right-handed golfer, and it's terrible. And he began to melt down and got so upset that, I thought he was going to have a stroke. He was bright red and veins were popping out of his neck, and he started breaking clubs. And
I think I've seen that movie.
Yeah. And I'm caddying for this guy. And we get to the last hole, and he throws his golf bag, hits a ball, a big slice, it goes into the water. He takes his bag and he throws it into the pond. And I go, what do I do now? I don't have anything to carry. So we both walk into the clubhouse, and he writes the ticket and gives me so I can get paid. And about 10 minutes later, he comes back to the caddy yard and he says, my keys are in my golf bag.
Oh, no.
And so I got an extra $2, I think, for going in the lake and
No.
getting his club.
Yeah, but this
was
is
it?
75 years ago.
Yeah, almost. But anyhow, the ironic thing is I had him for English as my sophomore year in high school. And I knew that story. Nobody else did. And he knew I knew that story. So
you were there.
Yeah, I
You didn't
witnessed
know
it
the
all.
story.
I witnessed
You
it
were
all.
there.
But he was really an excellent teacher, but not a very good golfer.
Is there anybody in the golf industry you haven't met that you wish you had?
I've never met Tiger. I've met Jack and Arnie, and a story about Arnie in the book. And I know Jack Nicklaus pretty well. Here being with Tom Watson, icons. But I've never met Tiger. And I know a lot of people that have. He came to Pinehurst after I left multiple times. Matter of fact, he came to Pinehurst as I think a 13-year-old to play in one of the junior championships, North and South. And he'd be fun to watch him play. I think who would I like to meet? Is Bob?
Did you ever meet my golf instructor, Jug McSpadden?
I met Jug multiple times. Jug played golf into his 90s,
Yes.
I want to say, and he still played. Since he was a PGA championship champion, he was invited to go every year. So before the PGA, he would come out to Wolf Creek and practice putting because our greens were faster than anybody's in town. And so I got to know him pretty well. What a legend. What a legend. The Gold Dust Twins.
Byron Nelson. He
yeah.
was my grandfather's best friend on the day that my grandparents were to get married, way back when.
Wow.
He was best man, but he convinced my grandfather to go play a round of golf before the wedding. And my grandmother was so against it. She's going to be late. They went anywhere, and guess what? They were late.
Byron Nelson.
Yeah.
Is he not the man who holds the most distinguished record in all of golf?
Well, I would say, when he won all those tournaments in a row during the war.
13 in a row.
Yeah.
Of all the records in all of sports, Chamberlain's 100 points,
Yeah.
so-and-so's strikeouts, Cy Young strikeouts, games played,
Ripken's games.
Ripken's,
All
right,
those games in a row.
Tom Brady's national championships. Of all the records in all of sports, I think Byron Nelson's record is going to be the most difficult to ever match or beat.
What's fun is if you talk to Tom Watson and about his relationship with Byron Nelson, it's incredible because Byron taught Tom a real lot, and they became really, really close. And almost every time Tom talks about his past, Byron Nelson will come up.
See, it's amazing because once you reach a certain plateau, you can only get better in small degrees.
Yeah,
But those small degrees are so meaningful in how far you separate yourself from the rest of the field.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're 13 years old, you can learn everything, but it still doesn't mean that much because you haven't gotten as high as the bar yet.
yeah,
But once you've hit that bar of as high as you can go, to get those little smidgets of knowledge and experience from somebody else,
Yeah.
it is amazing.
yeah.
So who would your top foursome be of all time
To
watch?
To watch.
Well,
Okay,
you
I'd love to
would-
watch Hogan, of course.
Right.
I think Hogan and Sneed. I mean, there's a big argument. A lot of people will argue who was better, Hogan or Sneed. And my mentor, Mike Crack,
Crack said Sneed
the
was.
Sneed was.
Right.
So Hogan, Sneed, and I got to really get to know Sam Sneed pretty well. I never met Hogan. So Hogan, Sneed, probably Nicholas and Palmer would be the foursome I'd like to watch.
See, Palmer's there just for entertainment.
Yeah.
It's not like,
Yeah.
I mean, I went out to a seminar they put out at Loch Lloyd.
Uh-huh.
And they had the other great golfers there. I forget who it was. And they were making fun of Arnold Palmer
Oh.
like crazy. That baseball swing of yours, how can you ever get it to go anywhere straight? I mean,
Right.
they're busting his chops.
Yeah.
He must have been a world-class competitor.
Well,
to not have the technique and still be able to do what he did.
to be the competitor he was and win the championships he did and hit the risk reward shots that he played. I mean, he had no fear. But then to also have the personality he had. I mean, if God made a person that really was the perfect PR person, that was Arnold Palmer. I mean, the king. He was the king. And the story in the book where I met him for the first time is really pretty good. My boss at Weyburn in Connecticut, when I got in the golf business after the Navy, grew up in West Virginia, about 30 miles from Latrobe, and he and Arnie grew up together. And so Arnie and his wife Winnie and Susan and Mike and his wife Susan would play bridge, and they did a lot of stuff together just because of the geography. And but Arnie, when Westchester Classic was being played, or the Hartford Open, Greater Hartford Open, Arnie would usually come by Weyburn to see Mike. And I didn't know this relationship at the time because I had just started. And I'm out there getting the ladies' day started, and carts all loaded up and caddies assigned. And I walk in to do something, and Mike, and Arnie, who both were club makers and had a real passion for club design. They're in the workshop there, or Mike's in the workshop there with a guy, and I can't see who the guy is. He's got his back to me. And Mike's got a bowling pin, hammering a 9-iron to change the lie. And Mike sees me and he says, "Hey, Jeff, I want you to meet somebody." This guy turns around and it's Arnold Palmer. Well, I almost wet my pants. I guess that's probably a good thing. I mean, I said, "Yeah, that's exactly right." And I said, "You're Arnold Palmer," and he said, "Yeah, I am." Yeah, and it's funny because years go by and I see him at Pinehurst.
Think about this. How many people have a drink named after him?
Oh yeah,
I mean, Babe Ruth has a candy bar,
yeah.
right? Arnold Palmer has a drink. Not that many people. Tiger doesn't have one. Brady doesn't have one.
No.
Even Mahomes doesn't have one.
That's right.
But Arnold has something named after him.
And AP, yeah.
But I think it's impressive, like when you were in the Navy, even. I mean, you knew you wanted to be in golf. When you were in the Navy, you still managed to incorporate golf.
You know, and that's there. I mentioned it in the forward of the book that sometimes you're lucky, and sometimes things are maybe meant to happen. And when I went in the Navy, I tested first, and so they could decide what job I would have. And there were 4 jobs that were,
Wait a second. I didn't know they had a job for golfers in the Navy.
well, yeah, this is kind of interesting. And I tested into the electronics, electrical, machinist area. So there were 4 jobs. And of the 4 jobs, the one job that would allow you to have your own workspace was an interior communications electrician. And we had our own room. And in that room, we had the gyro compass for navigation. And that room was climatized with air conditioning and it was set.
Sign me up.
It was kind of like, and I didn't know any of this. Any of the 4 could have been my lottery pick.
Right.
Well, I find out when I get onto the USS Lafayette World War II destroyer that the gyro compass room has deck plates in the floor and rubber matting over it. And if you lifted the rubber matting up and unscrewed the 4 screws in the deck plate, there's this big open space. So I could put a suitcase and my golf clubs on the ship. No other sailors could do that. But because of my job, I could do that. So we go to the Caribbean and I've got my clubs stored in there, my suitcase with my
Wait.
club.
Did the captain know about this?
They knew it was there that I did that, and they knew I was crazy golf because
The captain didn't carry around his clubs on the ship, did
he
he?
did. He had his clubs because when we actually went through the Straits of Gibraltar and to Boulogne, France, which is between Nice and Monte Carlo, the first thing over the PA system was Burey, Baker, and Benson laid in the quarterdeck. We're going to golf. The captain said that, and I played golf all over the world. We'd go to port. Sailors would do sailor things, and I'd go play golf.
All right. So
I love it.
you've played golf all over the world.
Yeah.
What are your favorite golf courses that you didn't design that you didn't design that you like the best, and why?
Well, during that time, I mean, there's a golf course that not many people know about, but it's in Athens. It's right at the Glyphada.
Well, everybody in Athens knows about this golf course. It's
Yeah,
just
but
here in
worldwide,
Kansas City,
worldwide.
nobody knows
Yeah,
about
Yeah, I
it,
think
right?
they played a Shell's Wonderful World of Golf event there at one point.
Oh, I
But it's
remember
called-
that show.
It's called Glyphada, and it's right at the Athens airport. And we had been at sea for 38, 40 days or something, and we pulled into port, and I got my golf clubs, and I had learned about this golf course. So I went there, and it was just manicured beautifully, and the greens were great, and it was just really, so that was one of my favorites. Played some unique courses in Malta, which is basically a desert rock. The greens there were.
Wait a second. Yeah, so far, your favorite courses are not continental United States.
Oh, my favorite courses today. I mean, I love Sand Hills. I
Prairie
live in
Dunes.
Nebraska. I love Prairie Dunes, where I got to work. Pinehurst #2 is world renowned. Cypress Point in California.
The one in the Mediterranean.
Yeah.
They were unique, or they were in the same class
Well,
as these.
as a young guy, I'm being like 20, 21, 22 years old. I mean, I was experiencing
Look,
things.
all chocolate ice cream tastes good when you're 22 years old. But as you get older,
Yeah.
you can distinguish between good chocolate ice cream and not so good chocolate ice cream.
And golf courses, Bob, are kind of like ladies. There's beautiful brunettes and
Wait
beautiful
a second.
blondes. And,
We're not talking about politics,
And,
sex, and religion. No politics, sex, and religion.
But no, I think there's styles of golf courses that are neat. I mean, you can have a beautiful desert course, you can have a beautiful mountain course, then you have the prairie courses,
Right.
and they're all different, but yet that's one of the things that makes golf so unique and special is they're all beautiful and fun. So if I had to pick my top 5 in America,
Pick five.
okay, Pinehurst #2, Prairie Dunes, Sand Hills, Cypress Point, and probably Seminole.
You didn't mention Augusta.
I played Augusta 6-7
And
times.
it's not in your top 5.
I mean, I like it. I love it.
Is it because it's too easy?
No, it's not easy. No, the reason I don't have Augusta there is I just think it's absolutely, everything's perfect. And but I kind of like the style where you have more prairie like golf. That's my
Arizona, prairie or desert?
No, prairie, where you have native grasses.
Right,
growing.
right. You can find that in the desert too.
Yeah, and you know, I don't
Cacti.
think, yeah, Florida courses are nice, but they're not my favorite. I mean, I worked there 4 winters, and
All right. So
Seminole is
of the
different.
5 courses you've taken, how many courses have you developed and designed?
Oh, that's just a hobby. I designed a little pitch and putt, a pitch and putt golf course.
You've got to talk about Wheat Leagues.
Yeah, a pitch and putt course at Twin Oaks in Eudora, and I worked with the Fazio guys, the Tom Fazio company.
Right.
They helped me with that, and then I built my first Wheelings at Twin Oaks with a guy named David Axland. And David's an interesting guy. He lives down in Arizona now, and he grew up here and went to Shawnee Mission South, and he is probably in the world, if not the best, in that number of top five in the world in shaping, meaning he can sculpt with a machine that's a skid loader or and like an artist. He is the best shaper. He can build bunkers and do stuff and he does Shinnecock Hills and Prairie Dunes so
When they design a hole, is it designed to be challenging, or is it designed to be test your patience? Is it designed to test your skill?
Yes.
Is it designed to test your fortitude of overcoming the impossible? Because some of these holes that they made, why?
Yeah.
Why do they put a 4-foot wall of sand where it's impossible
Yeah.
to get out of this?
Well, I think all of the above. I mean, a hole should be memorable. It should be fair. It can be hard.
Well,
but it
I'm
should
not
be-
talking about a flat,
Yeah,
flat everything.
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
I understand challenge,
yeah,
but some of these challenges don't seem fair.
yeah. It's there's a real art of design, and I mean, and it is, then there's a big separation between the great ones and the everyday designer,
Right.
and and the styles it's just like art. You can tell a lot of times. Oh, Bill Corbett and Crenshaw have their hands on this one, and
So I have an old philosophy. Everybody knows how to play checkers.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody knows how to play checkers.
yes,
Right? No, checkers. Some people are better than others.
Right.
You have some people who are very good.
right,
And then you have some people who are experts.
right,
And then you have the grandmaster. Right? Everybody plays checkers. It only takes 10 minutes to learn,
right,
but it takes a lifetime
right,
for a very few to
right.
master. And this goes into everything.
Yeah.
Whether it's cutting grass
That's
or
right.
or vacuuming an infield.
Yeah.
Right? What are you a master at?
What am I a master
Yes,
at?
you're a master at something. What are you a master at?
Well, I think my passion for life and kids, and I think I'm pretty darn good at relating to younger kids, 7, 8, 9-year-olds, and introducing them to the game of golf. I think I'm probably pretty good at that, and it rings my bell. It really
Gets your feet out of bed in the morning.
yeah,
And
oh
gets
yeah,
you, puts a smile on your face
oh yeah.
when you go to sleep.
And that's why when you build a Wheelings golf course and you go out there and you see a dad or a grandpa out there with his granddaughters or grandsons, and you go, wow, that's what it's about.
Explain what a Wheat Links is, because this is your
Yeah.
brainchild. This is amazing. And
Yeah.
you've got it at Heritage Park.
Over in Eudora at the complex that I owned, we had a miniature golf course, which I bulldozed under, and I came up with this idea, kind of combined some ideas I had heard from around the country, and developed a 6-hole, 150-yard total length golf course that has 6-inch holes in diameter and 5-foot flag sticks.
I might be able to play that.
Oh, you
around.
could. You've got
It's for
I-
adults too.
Hey,
Yeah.
I could get that into a 6-inch
You
hole.
need a bigger one than that.
No, thank you very much.
And well, the fun thing is it's inexpensive to construct. It's easy to maintain, and it's doesn't take a long time to play, and it's
Regular,
affordable.
regular equipment?
You can play with regular balls, you can play with a limited flight ball, an almost golf ball, or a snag ball starting you at golf, which is like a tennis ball, and with big
How
plastic
about a
gloves.
wiffle,
Well,
golf wiffle?
yeah, well, yeah, that would be the limited flight
Right.
category. And so the beautiful thing is, and this is something that Tom Watson and I've had a lot of discussion about, how do we get kids to learn to play golf? We get them to hit balls in practice, but how do we get them to love playing the game? So what WeLinks Golf does, it allows the kids to hone their skills a lot faster because they get more hits, more touches, more.
And not everybody has access to the country clubs,
Yes,
which was the great barrier for generations and generations and generations, that you have to be born into the right family with the right
Right.
connections. Otherwise, you can never learn golf.
yes, and then, or you were a caddy.
Or you were
You're
a caddy.
and
Even
then
if you're
you
a
still
caddy-
would, yeah,
Even if you're a caddy, you had to live within walking distance
sure.
of the right neighborhoods.
That's right, or ride your bike.
Right.
But yeah, so the WeLinks, it meets a lot of needs. It's affordable. At Heritage, they're charging $3 all day, and it's
As
really
many rounds as you
you
want.
play all day. Yeah, and Tom
Isn't that
Watson.
crazy?
Yeah,
I tell you what, that'd be a great philosophy on a miniature golf class.
yeah. Oh, and what's fun is, you know, everybody has success, and I always, this is one of my favorite things to say. Fun motivates for a while, but getting better keeps you playing, keeps you doing it. That's success.
You only like what you're good at.
Yeah.
If you have no aptitude, if you have no success, you're going to give up and walk over to another activity
Sure.
that, hey, I can do this.
How many thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of kids have walked away from golf because they got frustrated? They hit, you're on a 500-yard hole, you hit it 20 times and you whiff it a
I'm
few
done.
times. Yeah, I'm
Right.
done. This is no fun.
Right.
I'm going to go shoot baskets, and I
Right.
might make one once in a while. And
But
but
it's a lot cheaper.
yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. And I would say that golf, because I was so fanatical as a young kid, I played in my yard. I built a golf course in my yard, and this is in
The
this
book,
book.
what your mom told her
Yeah.
neighbor.
Yeah, and we lived again in a row housing in a nice little neighborhood, but between the next door neighbor's house to the east and our house was a nice little gap, and so I put a hole in the front yard and a hole in the backyard. Tomato can. I played back and forth,
Right.
and well, the neighbors were real proud of their lawns in our neighborhood, and our lawn was terrible. I mean, because I would just wear it out. It was like the old mailman walking back and forth across the grass, and so the neighbors would complain to my mom, and my mom said, "I'm sorry, but I'm raising kids, not grass. I'm growing kids, not grass."
I love it.
One of my most unique sales, I'm in the floor covering business.
Yeah,
And one of the most unique sales we've ever made is the guy came to me and said, I'm putting a 3-hole par 3 course in my backyard, and I want to use AstroTurf for the greens.
right.
I've never done this before.
Yeah, so this had to be a while back.
Oh, this was forever gone. And so I had to figure out how much turf he needs
Yeah,
for the greens in his backyard, because he's making a par 3, right? Or maybe using it has to be par 3. It was 140 yards,
Yeah.
170 yards, 120 yards, par 3. Nobody can call it a par 2.
Yeah.
And that's what he's shooting for. One of my most used. So, what are your claims to fame? Oh, I mean, that was rhetorical.
what am I claiming?
No. One of your claims to fame in the book is you have an in-depth, meaningful relationship with one of the 4 or 5 icons in the Kansas City metropolitan area,
Okay, with Tom.
Mr. Watson. To
Yes,
me.
yeah.
Mr. Watson to her.
Yeah.
Hey, I've been on
You-
the phone with him a few times.
You
I
may
can call him.
you
Tom.
may call him Tom. I'm calling him Mr.
Yeah.
Watson, which, by the way, is a great segue to one of my biggest complaints. Reporters get on in front of Bill South. They say, "Bill, what do you think of?"
Coach, what do you think? Yeah.
Damn Skippy, this man has been too successful to be referred to as Bill and not Coach Self. Andy Reid, right? They want to put a microphone in front of Coach Reid and say, "Hey, Andy, what do you think?" This man is too respected,
Yeah.
too accomplished to be familiarized by just calling him his first name. It's a pet peeve of mine.
Right.
So I'm going to refer to Mr. Watson as Mr. Watson until Mr. Watson says I can call him Tom. That's part of my core values. That's who I was when I grew up. That's who I choose to be. Now you're Jeff. You're a regular guy, but Tom Watson is
Yeah.
Mr. Watson.
You know what's funny is on Thursday last week we did a photo shoot for an article going in one of the golf industry magazines and out at Heritage. And Tom, Mr. Watson asked me. He said, "Now, how old are you, Jeff?" And I said, "Well, Tom, Mr. Watson, I'm 1 month older than you. I was born in August. I'm 73." And I said, "You're born in September. So I'm your elder." And but yeah, so he thought that was kind of interesting. Maybe you should call me Mr. Burey.
Well, you know what's interesting about Mr. Watson? My first encounter with him was at a Hope event, helping our Patriots everywhere a few years ago. And Brad Demo asked me to write an article about it. So I showed up there. And after the clinic, he's like, there were reporters and other people there. And Brad was like, get in there, talk to him. And I was kind of like intimidated and shy. Okay, but it pays to be intimidated and shy because all those reporters got what they wanted and they left. And I was just standing there and Brad's like, and Mr. Watson looks at me and goes, "You have any questions for me?" And I did a few. It was just he and I.
Yeah.
And then he goes, "Want to grab some lunch?" So it was me, Mr. Watson,
Wait a
Brad, and a couple of others.
Wait a second. I saw that scene in Tin Cup too.
Yeah.
Right? I saw that scene in Tin Cup. Talking of which, there's been a lot of golf movies. Which ones do you like the best?
Bagger Vance.
Oh, Caddyshack's always fun. I know Bill Murray pretty well. That's why,
All right.
and that's another whole story.
I don't want to hear Bill Murray. I want to hear
But I like Caddyshack. I think it's just a classic. And although Bagger Vance is interesting, I like the Greatest Game Ever Played.
Kid in
Francis
New England.
Ouimet. Francis
What
Kid in
was
Ouimet.
the
Boston.
one that Rick Grayson was involved with? Utopia.
7 Days in Utopia. That was David Cook's book, Golf's Ultimate Journey. And
Tin Cup.
No, Tin Cup's good. Oh yeah.
You like that what it was that last hole where he keeps going for it and going
Oh
for it?
yeah, that's happened for real. I mean,
Really?
Oh yeah, there are some players that are just. Somebody just recently made a 13 on a hole, and they did. It was similar to the Tin Cup deal, and I think they made. And it was on the 18th hole, and they didn't withdraw. They played the next day, and did make the cut, but.
Was it inspired by the movie, or is that just who this guy was?
I just think golf can blow up your brain. Does that make sense? I mean,
I
if
think
you're
competition. I think it's competition.
Yeah.
I will not fail. I can do this.
Yeah.
Give me another chance.
right,
I don't think it's the TV cameras. I don't think it was Tin Cup setting an example. I think in his heart, you say, I can do this,
yeah, I can do,
and
this.
I will not fail.
Yeah, it's an the game is the greatest game.
Tear your heart out.
It will tear you, rip your heart out, absolutely.
Right.
And I think I'm so blessed to have had it my whole life. I mean, it's just amazing.
But one thing,
Do you play tennis?
I hit a few tennis balls once in a
Did you
while.
bowl?
I did bowl a little bit, but not.
Uh-huh.
I mean, never.
Are you
I
a hunter, fisherman?
Nah, a little bit of neither.
Did you do vacation
Yeah, vacation, but I
Without
played
golf?
golf on vacation.
without
Yeah.
golf?
No,
Yeah.
Were you vacation without
no,
golf?
that's funny. We go to the Berkshires. I lived in
Who's we?
Connecticut, my family, and we would go to the Berkshires, and they would all do the lake and swim and
Berkshires, is that Pennsylvania?
Western Massachusetts.
West Massachusetts. Okay.
And they dropped me off at the
Golf
local 9-hole golf course, and I'd just stay there all day, and then they come pick me up at dark. And so, yeah.
Okay.
but you have to know. I mean, I have to say this because he's humble. He will not brag about himself. But there's one thing I've noticed about all of the members of the Midwest Section PGA is they're all so kind and generous and nice and giving. And I don't remember who it was that told me this, but one of the members a while back, and I've noted that everyone that I've interviewed with or spoken with, they're so authentic. And he goes, well, we're all this way because golf is a game that just humbles you.
Yeah.
No shit.
So
Golf teaches you life.
yeah,
I mean, the whole game of life is embodied in the game of golf. I mean, it really, every emotion, every,
All right, I got a whole bunch more questions. By the
Yeah.
way, I love your nail polish.
oh yeah.
Show it to everybody. Nail
Yeah.
polish is absolutely
Posh
gorgeous.
nails.
You play, I'm just going to guess, 20 hours of golf a week?
I
Or
did.
did?
I did when I was a little bit better physical shape.
So when you're playing 20 hours a week, playing 20 hours a week,
Right.
how many hours would you practice a week?
Oh, so 20, play 5 rounds a week. So if I practiced, I would practice probably twice that as an
See,
apprentice
that-
pro.
That's the part
That
people
won't
don't
admit.
understand.
Yeah, you just can't go play and play
Right.
and play.
Jerry Rice, best wide receiver of all time, dedicated himself to practicing and getting better.
Yeah.
All the greatest ones are the ones who have the greatest work ethic
Yeah.
to practice their trade. They just don't show up and play.
Yeah.
So you're playing 3, 4, 5 rounds a week,
Right.
and you would spend twice that much time
Practicing for sure.
practicing the drives, the putts, the situations, the tall grass, the sand pits. You would situationally practice.
Yes, and I give a great example is I like to identify where I'm weakest and then practice that the most. And so if I had a weakness probably when as a junior golfer in the bunker, playing out of a sand trap or a
Okay.
bunker. And one time it was detrimental in a high school match. And,
Cost the team the championship.
well, so my mission became
Make
I'm
you
going to
be a
become
strength.
I am a good bunker player.
So situational golf.
Yeah.
A lot of basketball players might say they put themselves on the foul line and say 1 second to go, tie game, I got to
Right.
make the shot. Do you situation
Oh.
yourself on a golf course to make a particular shot
I did
with
that.
the pressure on top of you?
Absolutely. I did that as a high school golfer, tournament golfer. When I would practice, I would say, okay, I would kind of imagine the situation and try to do it enough times so when I did get into that situation, I'd feel comfortable.
What was the movie we were talking about with Lance, Bagger?
Bagger Vance.
Bagger Vance,
Vance. So
Seeing
when,
that.
when you see it, did it ever fade? Were
Um,
you able to
you know what,
close out the distractions?
That's a great question because I remember as a junior golfer, and I never really had this as a amateur player, golf pro. But as a junior golfer, I literally would see on the green a black line from the ball to the hole. And if I saw that line, the ball was going to go in the hole.
This
No, I
is-
can-
this is how far away from you the pin at
I
the
could be
time?
20 feet, I could be 30 feet, I could be 2 feet. But if I didn't see the black line,
It's 50-50.
it may maybe not even that. But if I saw that line, it was about the width of a baseball chalk line, and if I saw it, I feel it and I'd make the putt. And I mean, and you know, it's almost embarrassing. You don't want to say to your fellow competitor, I
Don't
knew,
you
I,
see
knew
it?
I was going to make that because it's almost like you're
Wait a
arrogant.
second, I got a question for you. Why would you ever hit a ball unless you saw the black line?
Well, because it's hard to focus and
Well, like,
concentrate. There
once,
you go.
once you find
Yeah.
once you find that zone, if I do this,
Yeah,
if I
that's and
if I do this,
yeah.
if I do this, train yourself to do that so I can see the black line. Why would you ever hit the ball if you don't see the black
See,
line?
Ken Venturi told me a story about visualization and seeing it. He said he pictures every shot he hits. There's a skyscraper, 50-story skyscraper in front of him with all these windows, and one window is open.
Right.
And he does not make a swing until he sees that open window, and
That's your black line.
that's his black line.
Right.
And and I mean, I'll never forget that. And he said, that is my trigger to go when that window opens.
See, of all the sports movies, that scene where Bagger
Bagger Vance, yeah.
Bagger Vance teaches the kid to block everything out,
Yeah. And
to
it goes-
focus on one thing at a time.
Right.
That might have been one of the greatest telling scenes in all of sports movies
Yeah.
because it transfers to everything in
Everything.
life. Everything in life.
In the natural, doesn't that happen too when he's pitching? And he goes into the trance where it's just like it's automatic. And
If the
The
ball
pitcher.
if the ball was moving in slow motion and you could actually see the seams,
Yes.
right? Because baseball comes so damn fast, you can't see seams, right? And he's doing it in slow motion.
Yeah.
Yes, same thing.
Yeah.
Same concept.
Ted Williams would see the seams and see
Right.
them rotating.
Right.
Yes. Ooh, that's
And by the way, George Brett,
yeah.
do
Same
you know George? It doesn't matter.
Hey.
That's your time.
It's in the
George-
book.
George Brett has more neck deformities than any man I've ever met in my life. And it is because he was one of the greatest baseball players of all time.
Yeah.
Because as you're swinging at the baseball and it's crossing the plate, your eyes are still making contact with the ball and your neck is all cut like anything because your head is going straight down. And that's why his neck almost seems deformed. But it's why he was the greatest hitter,
Yeah.
one of the great hitters of all time, because he actually kept his eye on the ball
Right.
until contact was made.
Right.
So, did you see the ball off the tee, or were you using peripheral vision the last 4 or 5 inches?
Well, I'll tell you two stories there. Yeah. Yes, when I was playing well, most of the time I'd see what I wanted. I'd see the shot before I hit it. I'm going to hit a draw. I'm going to hit a fade, and I would make it happen. It would just happen.
Right.
I remember struggling one time, the first hole at the Weber Golf Club in Connecticut, where I apprenticed. There was out of bounds left and trouble right, and I would either hit it way right or I'd snap hook it out of bounds. And I had this mental block where I would picture these shots. And I was having lunch with a tennis pro, and I just said, Terry, I'm having this tremendous problem. I can't get off the first tee because I see these negative shots. And he said, you got to learn to concentrate. He said, you don't make the swing until you see the right shot. So there you go, Bob. Right what you're saying. Just what you're saying. And so anyhow, that was a great lesson. And again, it's easy to say that, but it's hard to.
In one respect, you're one of my newest heroes.
Oh,
Ask me why.
why am I one of your newest heroes, Bob?
You have lived the most amazing life that you could have ever designed for yourself.
Yeah.
Not many people can live their life with their values the way you've chose to live yours. Everybody else ends up,
Amen.
right?
Yeah.
You're my hero. You actually got to live the life you wanted to live.
That's why I
And he's
titled this Blessed.
Blessed. And he's still doing it. Like, tell him your future plans for WeLinks and where online people can learn about it.
Yeah, we have a really great website that's called we-links.com, and it tells the whole story. But the plan is, and we're getting calls from around the country, people are interested in golf clubs, country clubs are interested in adding a WeLinks as an amenity. And
May I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Find somebody to partner up with you who's in their 30s or 40s.
Yeah.
Right? Franchise it. Put it in every community. Sell it to golf courses or to driving ranges as an add-on opportunity.
Right.
But franchise your concept into how to build it, promote it, sell it, make it profitable, and monetize it. Right. But even though it's your passion, you don't have the engine to make this work.
Yeah.
You have the Rolodex to make it work, perhaps. Right? There's that word Rolodex.
Rolodex. Yeah, there you go.
Right?
I
But
know what Rolodex is.
right. We all do. We talk
Yeah.
about Rolodex all the time. But find somebody young who has the passion to follow your dream and make it their own.
We call them the Pied Pipers.
Right.
We're looking for our Pied Pipers, and I'm working.
You're the Pied Piper. You got to find the rats.
Yeah.
No, they're not rats.
Johnny Appleseed. is
Right.
the other one.
Okay.
Yeah.
You need people to follow you.
Yeah. Well, I think you're exactly right, and because the future is not here; it's there.
Look, you were the future 70 years ago, right? You were the future 60 years ago.
Yeah.
I was the future 60 years ago. I'm not the future anymore. I'm
Right.
the old dinosaur
Right.
just taking up space.
Right.
But I got 2 boys in my business with me who I'm going to let them have the platform, and hopefully they'll make it bigger.
Yeah.
I'm just doing this to kill time and stimulation.
see what's really fun about what you said about your two boys and they're taking over and doing it. That's the way I've always felt about my apprentice pros that worked with me. And they're all over the country. And they're all have, I mean, I learned from them and they have a little piece of me. And I was at Oakwood today and the head pro there is one of my guys from years ago and doing a heck of a job. And
I understand they remade that course and it's pretty nice.
spectacular. Yeah, it's really, really good.
Is it as good as any other course in town? Because there's
Well,
some nice courses.
Oh,
in town.
yeah. Well, see, what's happened is all the courses have upped their game. I mean, from
Competition, you want
when I came,
memberships?
when I came in 81, I mean, there were no greens like Wolf Creek. And now pretty much if you don't have good greens, you're probably going to get a new superintendent. And they're good. Those guys know what they're doing. And yeah, there are so many great clubs. People ask me sometimes, what's your favorite club in town? And I mean,
I would tell them my 9 wood, but
yeah, I think, I think from yeah. Iron Horse, yeah. There's so many good golf courses and they're all, again, different, but I love Milburn and Mission and Kansas City and Holbrook's new, Shadow's great, Wolf Creek's wonderful. There's so many good ones.
do you have any questions you want to ask him before we
Well-
wind this up?
I want to know where people can get your book.
Yeah, that's really good. The book is available through the Kansas Golf Foundation. And if you go online, just kansasgolffoundation.org, I believe, there's a drop down and it says get Jeff's book. All the proceeds from the book go toward junior golf programming. And we've raised over $50,000 with the book. I have not made a penny on the book, and that's not the intention. The intention was to help First Tee, Youth on Course, Midwest PGA Snag and School, Kansas Golf Foundation. And so, yes, please. And please check out.
Are you ready for this? Jeff, will you give us some copies of your book so that if one of our thousands and thousands of listeners would like a free copy, we can mail it to them?
Yeah, you give them the free copy, but then ask them if they would make a donation to the Kansas Golf
You
Foundation.
ready for this? If you get the free book, you got to make a
No,
contribution.
you don't have to, but
Well,
we-
It would be nice.
Yeah,
It would be
we're not-
nice.
We're going to ignore your request unless you make a contribution.
that's kind
I
of,
think there's something in the back. Is there?
that was for the pros.
Okay, yeah.
So is there something you want to tell our thousands and thousands of listeners about you, your life story, your mission that you want to share with everybody?
Well, I want to thank you for having me and letting me vent a little bit, tell some stories. And I just would encourage everybody to try to play golf. If you haven't played, go out to Heritage Park, try the Wii Links. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised about how fun golf is.
Where's where we live?
At Heritage Park in Olathe
Where's that?
on Black Bob Road, right off of just south of 151st
Yeah.
Street.
All right. How much does it cost?
It's $3 all day,
$3
all
all
day.
day.
all day.
$3 all day.
Yeah,
And you get to play golf.
yeah.
And you might meet Jeff.
Yeah, good chance you'll meet Jeff.
And he's going to give you a free book.
yeah.
All right.
They're
If you mention you saw him on What's Up, Big Bob and Ann?
what's up?
What's up?
What's
Yeah.
up? Thank
Well,
you. very
thank you,
much,
Bob.
brother.
Thank
You
you,
were
Ann.
absolutely spectacular.